Hey, what's up? I'm Kaaw, and today we're having a battle of 6 HP drums. We got Faselunare Vega versus 2 HP kick, snare, and hat. Same HP size, same use cases, but a lot of major differences that we'll cover in this video. The 2 HP modules are very simple workhorses. They're 2 HP wide, as in the name. Most of them are around 42 millimeters deep, with the circuit board spanning the whole height, making it hard to fit in some smaller cases, especially with the wires installed. Faselunare, on the other hand, is 36 millimeters deep, making it ideal for small cases, and has a much heavier feature set, but comes with a few quirks, which is why I think this is a good comparison. So let's get this patched up. So we'll grab clock from Pam's into Varigate. Use these bottom four for kick, snare, and the hats on Vega. Then we'll use these top 3 ones for 2 HP kick, snare, and hat. These so we can see the difference. Oh, we'll do open. Grab an output, throw it into the mixer. This is going straight to my interface. Signal check. I gotta unmute. There we go. We'll trigger the closed hats with gate number 4 on Varigate. And let's get the outputs. Turn this down, turn these up. And we got signal. And then just for a little more ear candy, the Doper A1116 for just a bass line, super low in the background. And grab an output. Okay, Velcro. So we can see. So let's go through the 2 HP set first. Since it's simpler, it's been out for longer, and it's pretty classic sounds. On our kick, we have tone. Decay. Short and snappy. This is long. And then pitch. It's pretty high, and this is the lowest. Let's bring in our snare. Snap. Minimum. Kind of cracky. And max, a bit more noisy. Then we have decay. Super short. And super long. And then our volt per octave, our pitch. Alright. And last, our hats. We have decay. Sizzle, which is a change in pitch as well as filter frequencies. And blend. From noisy and digital to the more natural metallic sounding. Cool. So pretty classic, straightforward. Now let's get into Vega. So Vega has 4 voices, kick, snare, and 2 hat voices, triggers individually, and a master out, and then this last output is for accents. Each section has a synth voice and sample playback, which you can swap between. Then up here is our function and selector button for key combos when saving and loading presets, and to scroll through the settings. The settings have LEDs corresponding to the page that they're on, and 2 settings per page with these encoders here. We'll start with the synth voice. I'll keep the guide up from the manual so you guys can follow along. On page 1, we have source selector on encoder 1 and pitch on encoder 2. This is generally the same throughout all the different voices except hat section, which doesn't have pitch. Switching to page 2, we have our pitch, attack, and release. Page 3, we have amplitude, attack, and release. Page 4, we have noise. So this is noise volume and noise cutoff. But for that, we need to go to page 5 and open the noise envelopes, attack and release. And lastly, page 6 is the waveform mix on encoder 1. So it sweeps through the different preloaded waveforms. And then the last encoder is just the track volume. So we'll go back to page 1 and we'll come to the snare. Make sure it's selected. So again, we have source and pitch. So here's the pitch range. Pitch, attack, and release. And amplitude envelope. Page 4 is noise volume and cutoff. But again, page 5 is the envelope. Page 6 is where it differs from the kick, and we have the overall filter cutoff on encoder 1, and encoder 2 is again the volume. Next we have our hat section, and these last two will be the same settings for both of them. Page 1 is source, and for the hats we do not have anything controlled by encoder 2. Page 2 is filter select. Encoder 2 is just labeled freaky, which I assume is like a filter accent or slight modulation of some sorts, because it's very subtle. And the manual says that each Vega has its own encryption key, so they're all unique and none of the freakies are the same. Yeah, so I don't actually know what it does. Super cool idea, and I'm really behind making like a certain feature of all the modules unique, but if I'm being honest, it's so subtle that I can't really tell what it does, and there's not much explanation in the manual. So, but anyways, page 3, we're on amplitude, attack, and release. Page 4 is white and pink noise mix. Page 5 is the noise envelope. So we'll go back to page 4. Then page 6 is only the volume encoder on the second encoder. This one does not. On the manual it says that this shouldn't be anything, but it clearly does something. Huh. And that's still the volume. So, there we have it. Now we'll switch over to the sample source. So to do that, press any of the corresponding buttons here and make sure we're on page 1. So we'll go to bass drum, page 1. And with the left encoder, pick any of these first 4. Make sure it's unmuted. And we have our kick drum. Let's go to our snare. Our hats. So I think this is a good time to talk about the 2 gripes that I have with this module. I don't know if this is just my module, but the encoders, when I'm fine-tuning, will get to a point and then snap back to a higher setting. So it's usually the first encoder that does it. I've had it happen maybe twice with the second encoder, but it's mainly the first encoder. I really hope that it's just a flaw with my individual module and not kind of a widespread issue, but it is really frustrating when it happens over and over and you're like just really trying to dial it in. But number 2 is the synth engine for the classic percussive sounds has a very wide range of sounds that it can produce, but a super small sweet spot for non-experimental sounds. So this is just my personal opinion and has to do with the type of music that I make, but I think it's worth being said. I enjoy the capability and range of sounds that is possible, but mixing the small sweet spot with the encoder bug and having to scroll through all 6 pages to get back to the one before. Little frustrations, but anyways, so you can load 4 samples per voice, and when you're loading them onto the SD card, they need to be labeled A1 through 4, B1 through 4, C1 through 4, D1 through 4. The settings for all the sample voices are the same no matter what instrument you're on. So page 1, of course, is source and pitch. Page 2, we have crush. And sample rate. Page 3 is our amplitude envelope, but it will only decay to as long as the sample is. Page 4, we have noise volume. And cutoff. But for that we need the envelope. And page 6 is overall filter, which you won't be able to hear much on the kick drum, and volume. Let's do this on the snare. Time for final thoughts. Let me start out by saying Vega is by no means flawless, especially for my style of production. But the things that it is good at, it does great, and it already has and will continue to be used as one of my main drum modules in my small palette case. I picked up this module primarily to use it as a synthesized drum module and have samples just in case, but I've primarily been using the samples and I actually love it. Like how many settings there are to mess with the samples, it's great. It's not what I expected, but it's awesome. I'm not gonna be too hard on the encoder issues because I don't know if that was just my module. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm still able to get a good result out of it, especially with the samples. But the menu cycling and the LED codes is a bit of a struggle. Maybe that says more about me than the module. If there was one thing that I think may be able to be added in a firmware update, just adding another key combination to be able to cycle backwards as well, I think that would greatly speed up workflow on it. The synth voice I can definitely see as a good tool in sound exploration and different genres of music, but it's not very easily tweakable to get to the sweet spots. That being said, you can save presets, but 2HP's ease of use and speed to dial in classic synthesized drum sounds is kind of the winner in my book. The Vega buses all of its sounds to one output, which is kind of amazing. It saves having to have a separate mixer module just for drums, where you can just have everything coming out of one output and you're kind of good to go. So even with all the things that I mentioned, I really do love this module and it solves some major issues that I was having. Just be aware of the quirks. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, let me know what you think of Vega versus 2HP drums, and I'll see you in the comments. See ya.